He said, I don't think I have the time and the energy and the willingness to do this. So the question became, how do we get these voiced if Alistair can't do it himself? Good afternoon. They gave us handhelds. I'm Mike, that's Sarah. In case you were worried or not sure who was who. As we have the opportunity, thank you, Mike, for the opportunity to come and talk about what we've recently been up to with some of the voice cloning things at Truth for Life. And it really has come about from a need that we had over the last little while. So this thing, here we go. So we had a really specific problem that we started with. So this was not looking at AI and technology and trying to find a way to use it. This was us seeing a need within the ministry and an opportunity for us to be able to use AI. So Alistair has written 2 daily devotionals that take you through 2 years worth of essentially summarized teaching that Alistair's done. And we wanted to have that voiced. But the preference was not to have somebody else voice it, but to have Alistair do that. And one of the big issues for us was a time limitation on Alistair's part. He's a busy pastor, and he came into to the studio, sat down, and recorded about 8 of these. And they're 4 to 6 minutes long. And at the end of 8 of them, he kind of looked at us and said, "How many of these are there?" We said, well, there's 2 years, so 700 plus of these devotionals. He said, I don't think I have the time and the energy and the willingness to do this. So the question became, how do we get these voiced if Alistair can't do it himself? We took a look at what can some of the generic models do, but at the end of the day, Alistair's originally Scottish. He's been in the States for a very long time now, so he's got this kind of blended voice, and generic models just were nowhere close. You could sort of hear him in there, but it was really not right. And ultimately, when you look at a lot of the fine print of the voice cloning pieces, there's questions about who owns that voice going forward. And that was something that we wanted to be really clear about, that Truth for Life was the one who was able to use this technology, and it shouldn't be used anywhere else outside of what we were comfortable with. So we wanted to set some early guidelines that were just really, really clear on how something like this would be used. So first, it's only used with Alistair's written consent. So he's clear on the fact that this is being used and where it's being used and how it's being used. Also, on the introduction for these daily pieces, we have an introduction from Alistair directly, saying, "I'm really excited to see this happening. I'm really excited to see this put together." And then he's also been reviewing and had personal approval of the entire process, and that was really important to us on the front end of this whole process. So one of the next steps for us after deciding that this was something that we were interested in doing, that we wanted to do a voice cloning project, we needed somebody who could really help us. And so this is a picture of Chris Lim. He works with a company called TheoTech, and he's out of the Seattle area. We thought about flying him in for this 15 minutes, but decided it might be a little bit too much. He also just has a brand new baby, and his wife wouldn't let him leave. So as Chris and his team came alongside of us, they really did a deep dive on the technical side of how to do this well, how to create a voice that would sound like Alistair, and breaks down into 4 really high-level pieces. So data collection, so needing recorded samples of Alistair's voice, doing some audio analysis on that, breaking that voice down into its component pieces, and then creating the model, and then doing voice synthesis, so being able to generate that new speech based on the model. And then all of that done with fine-tuning in conjunction with the Truth for Life team. So to jump into a little bit of detail, these are some spreadsheets that we were working off of as we went. So I know they're fascinating visuals, but we did a lot of pre-processing. So taking the audiobooks that Alistair had already recorded. So we had tens of hours of him in the studio doing these audiobooks. And we took those, went through the process of cleaning that audio and removing background noise, normalizing volume levels, and breaking the audio down into smaller, more manageable chunks so that we could really get a good picture of what we were looking at. Then we had actually doing audio analysis and creating the model. So this is where they did a lot of feature extraction. This is where AI did play into the process probably the most, where AI analyzes the audio and extracts some of those key features. So pitch, tone, cadence, pronunciation, and breaking down the audio into its fundamental components and replacing those with numerical data, as I know a lot of people already know more about than I certainly do, and adjusting things like temperature and pitch and repetition. So as we created these different options, we had to do a lot of back and forth fine-tuning with people who knew Alistair's voice really, really well. So one of those, Bob Butts, who's back here in the corner, has been with Truth for Life for 30 years, and he has listened to Alistair more than anyone who's not married to him. Along with the rest of our audio team. So our audio engineers were really involved in the process, and they were going through painstaking review of different options on the models, how we weighted things, and trying to pick out the best ones. It was almost like when you go to the eye doctor, and it's like, is this better or is this better? Is this better or is this better? Is this, and it over and over and over again. And yet that process was really essential to getting a final product that we were comfortable with. So we tested some large samples of audio where we took big chunks of text and broke those down to see how were individual words pronounced. How did sentences flow into each other and affect the overall tone and inflection of the audio. And then we also went back and we tested samples based on source audio. So we would generate something that Alistair had already said, and we were able to go back and then compare that to exactly what did he say and how did he say it and what did it sound like. So we did a lot of different combinations to find the best mix of that process. We also did this testing against his real voice, and again, many more spreadsheets. But then when we really break it down, so on the left is a piece that Chris and his team put together about exactly how did they build this AI voice replication model, so collecting and purifying the data, training the model, and then deploying the software to our hardware, which we'll talk about here in just a second, and then creating the voice replica. But then ultimately for our team, what does it look like to be producing this? So it's a pretty simple 3-step process. So we were able to create the WAV files through the text-to-voice via the model. Those come out as audio just like we would normally get from when Alistair's in the pulpit. And then we can post those for distribution the same way we do with our existing program. So we had 2 big questions to address when it came down to actually getting this onto hardware, on premises versus the cloud. So in the cloud, we would have had a lot less upfront investment, but there's per word processing costs as we go, as opposed to doing something on premises where we had to spend a little bit more upfront, but literally purchasing a computer and then ending up with effectively 0 per word ongoing processing costs. So we ended up going with the on-premises model. And then the UI for this whole process was actually built out in conjunction with Chris and his team, again, back and forth with our audio editors, who are the ones who actually had to do this on a day-to-day basis and see what process really worked well for them. So when we talk about that on-premises computer, here's a picture of it. It's got beautiful little colors that go on. I understand you could probably play some great video games on it. But we decided to purchase. We wanted that freedom to do as many words as we wanted to. Again, we knew what project we were getting into on the front end of this. We knew we were going to go through hundreds of thousands of words. And we wanted that to be something that we didn't have to worry about how many times we ran things back through. And then our audio engineers are able to remotely log in and create the voice from that. So we've got this computer in the basement that basically takes Alistair and turns him into Earl Gigabits, as we like to call him, which is an anagram for Alistair's name. And actually this picture up here is a prompt for an AI-generated photo, Alistair Begg with a studio microphone. Is it him? It's not exactly him, but it looks a little bit like him. And when you listen to the audio, it's not perfect that if you really, especially if you're one of our audio engineers and you're listening for it, you can hear some slight differences, but it's really close. So these are just some behind-the-scenes pictures of what the actual process looks like. So our engineers are able to log in. They're able to see those projects by day and have everything kind of broken down so that they know which daily program they're working on. They can get into that audio and see it broken down piece by piece. And then they can convert that text into their audio files. So a little bit on the other implementation details. So text input, they were able to, we can put in an entire daily devotional that then gets broken down into sentences versus words, versus spelling things out phonetically if we need to, depending on what part of Scripture is being read. If there's a specific name or place that needs to be spelled out, we can drill down into that. System automatically breaks things down, breaks down that larger text into individual sentences. And then emphasis and emotion can also be added. So we can run things back through and change the inflection and the way that works. The manual audio editing is still an incredibly important part of the process. What raw product comes out of the system isn't ready. It needs a little bit of massaging by our audio producers to be able to bring life to it. And so they go through that process along with using other tools that are driven by AI. So Adobe's AI tools to edit and remove artifacts and correct pauses and add emphasis. And I'll pass over to Sarah.
All right. So once we had a model and a process for this, we had to figure out how to introduce this to our audience. For some, AI is new and exciting. For others, it's creepy and inaccurate. So we decided to be very upfront with our audience to tell them that it is digitally created, and also have Alistair introduce the concept and the process and how we brought Chris Lim on and his time limitations that played into us going into this direction. That was one of the first episodes or within the podcast, and then we can use that also to refer people to as they maybe ask questions, asking if this is AI or not. Once that was done, we distributed it to the TFL channels, so on our website, our app, in our daily email, which is the daily devotional email, and then also on our syndicated content website where people can sign up to put our content on their website as well. Of course, we also distributed this through many of the podcast channels, such as Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. We also offered it to our radio partners as a short program. If they were interested, we have about 7 radio partners that are using it in some way on their station or on their websites at this point. And then this is just since we released it in January of this year. We've had over 960,000 streams from the audio files from over 190 countries as well. And this is just a graph of the day-to-day streaming. You can see, obviously, we have peaks. Certain days we did more promotion around the audio Devo than others, but there's a gradual increase as the weeks are going on. And then this is just a map of all the countries that the audio Devo has been streamed in of some sort. One that we weren't able to get on the map is actually there's somebody in Antarctica that is listening to the devotion as well. So. And then this is just some of the feedback that we've gotten from listeners from it. Some of them, we do have a couple that have asked, what does it mean to be digitally created? Is this AI? Others just say, I just so appreciate this. I love listening to this. So again, we've just been very upfront that it is, it's not Alistair, it is AI that's reading it for him. So then after all the work that we've done, what's next? We continue to create the daily devotional content. Right now we're in April. So working through those, we have another 1.5 years to go. Other possibilities, looking at other possibilities for how to use this in the content that we already have. And of course, technology is always improving. So looking to improve the model, possibly also getting Alistair into the studio to even record some testing to specifically improve that model. So if you want, we don't have time now, but if you'd like to hear like the raw audio that comes out of Earl, and then also the edited or the post-production audio, you can go to the QR code that's available or tfl.org/DMC, and there's 2 samples there for you to listen to. Also, Mike and I were not heavily involved in this. We are just the ones that are available to speak on this topic today. But if you have any questions, you can talk to Chris at Spiffio. He actually created a blog post, which the link is right there for you, detailing this process much more than we could today. So thank you very much.